the best platform engineering expert on the planet. So, and the fact that Guy, did you bring in Guy? Yes. The fact that Guy said that he would do it. And many of you know Guy, co-creator of the platformers. Guy is amazing. And then as I was watching some of the platformers content, I found May and I thought, okay, Lady May needs to be here. It has to happen. And anyway, we made some phone calls and it happened. And so I'm just, you're in for a treat. I'm so excited. We're going to remove ourselves now and let you take it away because Guy, you're in good hands, panel.
Wow. Whoa, thank you. Thank you for having this event. I'm very excited, first of all, to be with all of you in the same room and going a little bit deeper into platform engineering. So just for everyone watching, my name is Guy. I'm co-founder of the Platformers community. I'm also CNCF ambassador, and I'm going to moderate and be the host for the panel today. So maybe you want to introduce yourself and maybe tell, like, how do you get into this platform engineering thing? Like, how do you get into platform engineering in general? So who would like to start?
Yeah, I'll start. So yeah, I'm Simon Forster, and I'm an independent contractor. I work in the City of London and in financial services. I also have the privilege of being a CNCF ambassador. I've been embedded within development teams for a long time now, doing cloud engineering work, and platform engineering has been really a natural sort of evolution and step after, from DevOps, really. I think that's probably the main thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Jason, do you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. Hey, everyone. My name's Jason Johl. I work on the development experiences team at Intuit. So I think we had some sessions earlier, but if you don't know, Intuit's like a global financial technology platform. And so my team builds the platform that all the different brands like TurboTax and QuickBooks and Credit Karma and MailChimp kind of run on. And I think, ironically, like the previous session was talking about edge computing and stuff, and I started my career doing more of that on like processing manufacturing, and then slowly just got more and more interested in kind of runtimes and then Kubernetes, and now I'm here. So yeah, it's been fun.
Thank you. Yeah, and by the way, Intuit are also the creators of Argo project.
Yes, yeah.
A small project in the Kubernetes world.
Just small, yeah.
Yeah, John, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi, I'm John Dodkins. Yeah, I'm also in the UK, as you can tell by the slightly fading light, perhaps, Simon. Yeah, I'm head of platform at Birdie, and they're a B2B SaaS health tech company. And they're all about digitizing the in-home care experience, so improving the quality of care with technology. I joined in March, and previously I was at OVO Energy for quite a long tenure. And I guess that's really where it started for me. I was in different IT operations leadership roles. I was actually skirting it for quite a while. And I think I read the SRE book probably a year after it came out, the Google SRE book, famously. And I just thought, this is it. This is what we need. And then, of course, the problem then changed to how on earth do we enable this with 50 teams and sort of 400 engineers. So we were a staunch you build it, you run it shop. And I think it took us quite a while to realize, hang on a minute, we might need something to help that actually work well. So yeah, I had the bug then, and yeah, I joined Birdie in March. So it's very different context, much smaller company. I'm hoping to move into that sort of more of a scale-up situation. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks.
Wow, it's amazing to see like the difference between platform in smaller company and smaller company trying to scale and larger company trying to like it scale from day one. Thank you. And May, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, why not? So hi, everyone. I'm May Beisaron. I am a senior platform engineer at Forster. I'm actually from Israel. So how I got into platform. So I guess after being a backend developer for over, I guess, about 6 years, I've written in many different programming languages. My favorite one is Clojure. Not that anyone asked, but I wanted to say it anyway. So now everyone knows. So yeah, after those years, I felt like I needed a bigger, I guess, different challenge. And what's a bigger challenge than making developers happy, right? And so I mean, 3 years ago, I joined Forster, and yeah, it's a challenge. I got what I wanted. It's difficult. They're not always happy, and they find you, especially when they're not happy. But we're still trying, and sometimes we get good feedback. It sounds really bad, but really, isn't it like that? Like, if everything works, then nobody says a thing, which is the best thing for me. Like, if they don't say anything, if I deployed something new and nobody said a word, I'm like, okay, cool. I like it. I like the silence. So that's what I meant by that. Yeah.
It's okay. Like the highest amount of excitement you can get from engineers, it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
So,
except for me, I'm always excited. Okay.
So for people at home, feel free, if you want to ask some questions, feel free to post it on the comments so we can see and maybe we can answer them. So let's go with the first question. Like, we're in here to talk about challenges and platform engineering challenges. And I want to ask, like, what is the most challenging part of platform engineering for you and for your team, and why?
I want to go and say naming our services. But just kidding. I mean, I named one of the services Loot Goblin, and not everyone got it, and it wasn't so funny. So yeah, no, but if I'm okay, on a serious note though, I guess personally for me, I don't know if it's the biggest challenge, but that's the challenge that I find myself facing time and time again when I try to plan a new architecture for something new that we want to bring into our platform offerings. So it's finding the right balance between giving developers autonomy and have it self-serve, and keeping things standardized. And I have to say that in Forster, there is this culture for years, because Forster started as a small startup where everyone were doing everything and they were responsible for their own resources. So there is like a very like not small group, I'd say maybe 30% of the developers at Forster, they love having that control and being able to do everything that they want on their own, adding more resources, making changes, trying things on their own, and they love it. So it means that we need to be able to allow this flexibility for them. But on the other hand, we still want to maintain the standards, having policies, stuff like that, and then also maintain the golden path. A lot of times I can say that it's not playing well together. Sometimes I'm going to have to choose one of it over the other, not all the time, but yeah, I find it to be a challenge. Yeah,
I think for us at Intuit, it's very similar. Like, as we scale, I think we have almost 8,000 developers now, and you can never make everyone happy, right? But we try to do as much as possible. And so I think, what level of access do you give someone is kind of the question we debate every day. Of like, we have this abstracted like runtime Kubernetes platform, and we're debating, does a front-end engineer need to worry about like managing Kubernetes infrastructure? Probably not, right? But there are a lot of other engineers that really want to get deep into the infrastructure and actually manage, how many replicas and what are the pods and all of that stuff, right? So it's creating the tooling and kind of hitting that balance is like so difficult, and kind of what we're tuning every day, I would say.
I mean, for us, it's quite different in that well, actually, I went to the Lead Dev conference in London recently, and a lot of people came out saying, hey, we're a DevOps team. Suddenly we're a DevX team. What do we do? It doesn't feel suited to us. And I sort of, had a few conversations like that, and then realized that I was very much in that situation, with our team. It's like everything, security, infrastructure, Kubernetes, but then really starting to think about developer experience and improving that, as well as keeping up with all these other things in a very constrained space and constrained team. That just juggling of priorities, I think, for us right now is the hardest thing. I wish it was naming things. I know it sounds trivial, but it's not. But I kind of envy that.
Yeah. Yes. The challenges I face are fairly similar. Banking is a very highly regulated industry, so there's a tremendous amount of policy regulation that we clearly have to manage. The other thing too is, particularly for myself, I tend to be working around traders and on front end and back end back office systems. So we have there's often a really strong desire for a tremendous amount of control from the development teams. That's great. We've got some amazing developers who've been able to do brilliant stuff with Kubernetes. The challenge is they also have a tremendous amount of functional code that they need to develop and to maintain. So the trick is how can we best go and give developers ease the path for the developers who require it, provide the access within regulatory bounds that make sense. And particularly one final thing, of course, is that in banking, developers and ops, it's very, very difficult for developers to get any access at all to operating systems. Yeah.
So do you like separate it completely in the banking or financial industry?
Yeah, typically the walls are pretty high. Things that have really helped have been CD has been the development and the implementation of GitOps has been actually pretty groundbreaking, because it has really provided an interface for a developer to be able to go and specify exactly what they want to have run in production and deploy that onto test systems, and then of course get that into production systems, simply relying on the approvals potentially that come from an operations team. So the capabilities that the platform offers are actually really important, and where sometimes the biggest challenge is around managing approvals. Yeah. And
wow, it's
applying policy. Yeah. Sorry.
It's amazing to see the amount of juggling like platform engineers need to do in every industry and every aspect. Like you mentioned, all of you mentioned like 4 different challenges, and I want to ask like something that come up a lot with the session people I talk with is about adoption. Like, do they really use it? Because, for example, Jason, you mentioned guardrails, and guardrails are really important because you want to give some control, but on the other side, you don't want to give no control at all, but they need to use it. So you need to find the balance. How do you see like adoption? Is it a real challenge or not at all?
I think for us, it's definitely a challenge. I mean, people have, they have their ways of working and they have their deliverables, right? So it's hard to find time to kind of try new products or make time to play around with stuff. I think what we've found to be maybe more successful is we've been doing these sort of like workshops and training activities where people can kind of just get their feet wet, I would say, because no one really wants to like, I mean, it happens, but no one really wants to be told, use this. It's more they want to, show up, kind of tinker with it, explore. And this has been effective for helping us get adoption of the products we want, but also getting feedback and like exploration of like, okay, what's missing? What do we need? And so I think these workshops that we've been running are pretty effective so far at like helping drive adoption, but it's definitely a challenge.
We've definitely found it challenging where we're doing a big maturing a lot of security at the moment, and it's a bit like you were saying, Simon. We're almost putting some of those walls up because we're in healthcare essentially, but also it's not the really sexy side of platform engineering. Actually, taking away privileges or changing the way privileges are being granted to developers and resources, and that has been a challenge. Even though everyone understands why you're doing it, and I guess it's an adoption of a kind. But we've really, it sounds obvious to say it, but really focusing on the developer experience side and actually taking a bunch of problems they're already facing, whether it's delays in getting access, or maybe actually some developers joining the company are a bit uncomfortable with what they do have access to. And we've been rolling out Teleport, which has been a real interesting experience of saying, let's actually solve some other developer experience challenges, give you a good catalog of your resources, but also it makes the whole platform engineering, I need a better term for this, but it starts to address some of the platform engineers experience. Someone help me out with a better name for that. But you've got developer, we're focusing a lot on developer experience, but also your platform engineers, they have an experience as well. So far so good, and that's been a really interesting one. But yes, security is definitely making that a really appealing topic for everyone to jump on board with has been a challenge.
Well, I see one question from the audience by Sundar, and he asked, like, do you find scaling issues with GitOps? Maybe it's how do you organize GitOps? Like a lot of you mentioned, do we put guardrails? Do we add security? What control do we give? And I think it maybe relates to that. May, I know that you did a lot of GitOps stuff recently, so maybe you can share a little bit how it works when you build a platform and you want it to scale.
So actually, I think that I'm not going to take it from the technical side, because to me, it's more important to say that when I think about scaling the platform, I think about what do I mean when I say scale? And it sounds funny, but like, do I mean that it's going to hold on to adding all of those resources to the same repo? Does it mean that I can deploy everything together? I mean, I can get things to work. I think that you need to work very hard for something not to scale at all. So then it brings me to the question, when I say it's not scalable, it's more like it's going to be super annoying and complex and tiresome to scale this thing. Because is it possible? Yes, but it's just going to be horrible to do it. Every time I want to add a new feature, it's going to be super annoying. I want to add a new step to the pipeline. I want to kill myself when I do it. Okay, this doesn't sound like it scales, right? So that's what I focus on when I think about the new steps that or the new thing that I want to bring in. So whether it's with the CI pipelines or whether it's the deployment pipelines or anything else, right now we're focusing on actually changing the new infrastructure, the infrastructure as code that we had until today. We're going into a whole process, and the first thing that at least important to me that we're doing is define what do we want to solve and what do we want to focus on in the solution. There are a lot of things that are important. So one of them is scaling, but scaling in terms of how easy it's going to be to add things and to do wide changes. So that's, scaling for me at least.
Sounds good. Is there anyone else that would like add anything, or should we keep going? Okay, so something that a lot of people ask is about platform capabilities, right? Like you start with something, you need to add some capabilities to it, especially on the first days, and then you got like a really large platform. Developers can do a lot of stuff. You add security to it, maybe from day one, maybe not. Cost management, etc., etc. Like, what do you think is your platform most valuable capability?
I can go first, I guess. And it's a cop-out if I say everything is valuable. I think one of the things that we've done very intentionally is created what we call like an operational data lake, which we send all of the instrumentation from our platform, all the data we collect into this one warehouse, and we manage it and keep it clean, most importantly. And I think that is like one of the things I'm most excited to see. It's very valuable today because we use it to inform decisions on how we scale our platform. We use it to train a lot of the AI models that we're running at Intuit. And so I think I'm excited to kind of see where it goes more and more, because there's a lot of generative AI tooling now that is more useful when you have the data, when you have kind of historic records of how your platform has performed. And so that's one, I'll say, of the most valuable capabilities, I think, for our team.
Wow, like adding AI and Gen AI capabilities to the platform sounds really amazing. What about the others? What do you think is your valuable capability?
I'm going to touch a little bit perhaps on the soft side. So I draw on a lot of capabilities that are provided by central groups. So in some ways I assemble effectively platform capabilities for consumption by developers. That relationship that I have and getting to know and working with all of the engineers who are providing, whether it's CI, CD systems or infrastructure capabilities, that's actually really important because because of the relationship that I have with developers, because I often tend to be dealing with them fairly directly. I have to sometimes respond quickly and need new stuff. So I think one of the, in some ways, if I go on the principle that you have a platform no matter what technology you have, which is I know has come up in the engineering community, then those relationships are absolutely really critical. Yeah, get to know the people are supporting you and that you support. Yeah, that's allowed innovation at pace, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we need to mention that platform is on one side is a very technical thing, like you build that for people to use as a product, but on the other side there are a lot of soft things that should be taken into consideration. I would like to ask you a question from the audience. Like Dan asked, where do you place responsibility for cost management in the platform or development team? I would like to answer that.
I think you need to have some oversight. You know, you can't just democratize that completely. But I think, you know, cost, you know, whether it's FinOps or whatever, you know, whatever is the in vogue buzz term of the day, you know, is a really good analog for how efficient your code's running and how well the software is performing. So, you know, if you frame it as another metric in that sense, but an important one because it's also part of running a business, I think, you know, that you can surface it alongside other observability metrics. We use cube cost, which we're getting some success out of after some configuration. But yeah, I don't think you can do that alone. I think you also have someone else checking the AWS bill and ringing around and find out what's going on.
Yeah, development teams can have full transparency of all of the resources that they're consuming and the corresponding operations teams. So just to John's point as well, it clearly highlights the efficiency of your code, and so responsibility, and it also goes, of course, through a management chain as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I think especially around AI, like people are using Gen AI, those costs are a little bit different from the other resources around there. And obviously, like when you want to innovate, you need compute resources. And I think Gen AI puts a lot of pressure around how do we manage those to scale. Something that people asked on the chat, and I want to ask you also myself, is about the technologies. Like, we are in the software industry. There are tons of technologies out there, and you need to build something out of them. Like, what technology do you use for your platform, and maybe what made you pick them?
Okay, I can go on that. Like, I can tell you all about our infrastructure as code that we're now thinking about replacing, but why not? I mean, it's for the better. So here's the thing. Today we have a Python code that is generating CloudFormation templates. And we're working with AWS as our main cloud provider. We have a little bit of Azure. And we also have Kubernetes running on EKS, and we're using Helm for creating the application Kubernetes resources, Helm charts. And then we're still using the same Python code for also generating the infrastructure side of the Kubernetes resources. So the thing is that when I wasn't there, but when they chose at Forster to go with CloudFormation, and more specifically with Python, it was because Forster was a smaller or a very small company, and it was the developers who needed to do everything. So instead of getting them to learn and understand Terraform, it was like, for them, it was easier to just write Python code. And then the more that the infrastructure team got advanced, then they added more layers and more abstractions and different ways to do the same thing. And, it just grew into something that is very powerful. But then also for those who are not a power user, it might be a bit more difficult to navigate through. So that's why I said we're considering of replacing that, because it's not very smart to take this lightly, like what we have achieved so far, because we have a lot of capabilities that are happening out of the box, where in other solutions, we're going to have to work harder to get them. And that's the case when you build something in-house, right? You get to make it very custom, well-made, tailored to your needs. But then again, that's a thought that we have now. How much do we want to put, how much weight do we want to put on the developer's experience? Is their experience that bad? So just one last thing around this area is that I don't think that the developer's experience is that bad. It's just that there are things that we can do better, and we're trying to understand whether we should solve them specifically in specific places or in specific ways with the infrastructure as code that we have today. And that's one option. And the other option that we're looking into is replacing the infrastructure as code that we have today. Stay tuned. It's going to be a hell of a ride because it's a lot of work. Don't stay tuned. It's going to take a lot of time.
Cool. Anyone else would like to explain a little bit about the technologies?
I can go. There's a lot. We won't get into all of them, but obviously Kubernetes, right? Kube Crash. Obviously Argo, kind of, founder of Argo Proj. A bunch of others like Jenkins for build pipelines. We have for testing like Jest, Istio, Envoy, all that, like a bunch of stuff. I think our main principle when we choose technology is we try and go open source as much as possible. I think that the rationale there is the open source community is always going to move faster. Like there's no denying that. So we want to leverage that, but also then contribute back to the projects, right? So that we can bring our expertise and our use cases that we've run into back into the project and like enrich that community. So yeah, I could do laundry list all day, but like the main thing is open source is kind of our number one choice when possible.
Wow, it's amazing to go like 1% open source strategy. So I could have go with this panel for at least 1 hour, but we a little bit ran out of time. So I want to do like a quick round. If anyone can say one tip for anyone in the industry, like share something about platform engineering tip that people can have a takeaway when they keep going with the day. What would be yours?
Yeah, I'll go. I think, when you're working in this space, you become so immersed in it that you forget that even in engineering, they don't know what you're doing. They don't necessarily know how you're prioritizing 100 different things. And I guess it's a really basic point to make, but just making visible what you're working on, what your rubric is for prioritization, just sort of building, like finding your proxies into engineering, whether that's staff engineers or engineering managers or top down through leadership. I think just sort of dialing all those things in will just pay you back 100-fold when it comes to those adoption challenges. So I think that would be my last tip, would be, yeah, make visible everything.
Yeah, and I would add a corollary to that as well, which is understand exactly how you're contributing as well. So sometimes if I often have to explain, particularly to senior stakeholders, things like, we're making this change so that we can drive up the availability, so that we can continue to deliver this business value and obligation that we have to customers or to a regulator or whomever that might be. So keeping my eye right on what's the business value of what I'm doing is one of the most powerful tools that I've got.
I guess I can go now. So one thing that helped me really with every single project that I either been a part of or I led or anything, is talking to the community. I have to tell you that, look, we always feel like, no, our use case is such a special snowflake. You don't understand. No, it's different. It's so different. It's so much more. It's not like other places. Maybe you have some things that are very unique and special and nobody has ever heard of this thing before. But there are a lot of things that people already went through. Somebody used Kubernetes, right? Maybe they have something nice or not nice to say about it. And you can learn from other people. So when I say talk to the community, what I mean is use those Slack workspaces, go into those Discords, reach out to people that you meet in conferences and meetups. It's unbelievable, the ability of the community to just, be there when I need it. I just threw out a question. I was like, anybody want to say something about this? I want to ask. Guy is smiling because he knows that once in a while I would send him a text like, do you know somebody who knows something about this? And then he will send just a few people my way, and they're going to be so helpful. And then I had a few people just approaching me in LinkedIn because I talk at conferences, and they were like, hey, I saw this talk that you did about Helm. And then out of the blue, I get to sit with someone and talk about Helm architecture and help them with something. And it's just amazing. It's one of those things that you can't find just by Googling or ChatGPTing something. Surprise, surprise. But getting things from the experience of others, that's gold, I tell you. That's it.
And then I'll end on, like, I think experimentation has been a good framing for us. Like, there's a lot of things we've done that are very successful and a lot of things we've done that are not successful at all. So framing, especially with all the Gen AI stuff in the last 2 years, framing a lot of these things as experiments and monitoring whether or not they're successful, and kind of, I know it's not the most fun thing, but going to the business with that framing has kind of been, I would say, successful and received well here. So that's my biggest tip.
Amazing. I think I can combine all of your tips about understanding what the business value is. How do we prioritize that in order to bring the best value at the beginning? Try to experiment and try to fail fast with that. And also, when we need to come up with a solution, always go to the community, ask, and figure out how they solve things. So first of all, I want to thank all of you, like Simon, Jason, John, May. You were great, and I enjoyed a lot being with you today. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And stay tuned next for another all the sessions today with KubeCrush. So thank you all for staying with us and watching. And if you have some questions that we couldn't answer, feel free to. I will suggest myself. Reach out to me via LinkedIn, and I will happy to answer all of your questions.
There are so many questions. Before you all leave, no, there is definitely so many questions in the comments in the live from the live audience. So I don't know if any of you can stick around and kind of go through some of them, and feel free to answer. You'll have to scroll way up because there's a lot of questions for you. The panels are always the best and the most active, and people want to hear from everyone. So if for some reason you get kicked out of Backstage, you can always come back in the audience and still answer questions from the audience side. And we hope you do, because you're all amazing, and that was such good information.
Awesome. Thank you all. I'm going to start removing you from the stage.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.